Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a special screencast-o-matic recording for the readings that pertain to the Eighth Amendment in Unit 2, Lesson 6. In this particular lesson, we're going to be looking at issues that pertain not only to the Eighth Amendment, but also to the Ninth and Tenth Amendments, too. For this particular recording, we're going to be looking at the bail system that America has established and also the death penalty, too. So please remember to answer the key concept questions that appear in your Google Doc, and also be advised that you may replay any part of this presentation that you might need for detail and clarity later. So let's get started. Should bail be eliminated? The bail system is under fire from critics who say it's unfair to the poor and should be scrapped, but many in law enforcement say that's a bad idea. When Miranda O'Donnell, a 22-year-old single mother, was arrested in May of 2016 in Houston, Texas for driving with an expired license, the judge set her bail at $2,500, and O'Donnell, who was earning close to minimum wage as a waitress, couldn't afford to pay, so she spent 3 days in jail. She missed time at work, and her mother had to care for a 4-year-old daughter. The same day O'Donnell was pulled over, 37-year-old David Dorsey was arrested by Houston police and charged with the more serious crime of felony burglary. 2 courtrooms over from O'Donnell, Dorsey's bail was set at $30,000, which he quickly posted, leaving jail for the following morning. The contrast between O'Donnell's and Dorsey's case isn't uncommon. On any given day, there are approximately 450,000 people being held in U.S. jails awaiting trial. Those who can afford to post bail are released, while poor suspects often spend days, weeks, and months behind bars as their cases work their way through the courts. So America's bail system, which dates to the nation's founding, is meant to ensure that suspects who are let out of jail don't flee while their cases are being decided. Those who aren't considered dangerous or a flight risk are given the option to post bail, which is paid to the court. As long as the suspect cooperates in the legal proceeding, the money is returned when the case concludes. But critics say the system is inherently unfair to low-income people, and some states are now moving to reform it or doing away with cash bail entirely. The bail system determines who is free and who's caged solely on access to money, says Alec Karkalakis, a civil rights attorney who has sued several states and cities over their bail policies. It's about who's rich and who's poor. The Eighth Amendment. The idea of bail has its roots in the medieval England, where sheriffs used to prevent criminal suspects from running off during the months-long wait for a judge to visit their villages. They have always been concerns about fairness of bail, and in the U.S., the framers included a protection against excessive bail in the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution, borrowing directly from the English Bill of Rights. Until about 40 years ago, bail in the United States was almost exclusively as collateral to ensure defendants came to court to face charges. But a crime wave in the late 1970s led many lawmakers and judges to take a tougher approach. Judges and politicians don't want to seem soft on crime, says Lauren Golden, a professor at Syracuse University Law School in New York, so laws were passed allowing judges to set high bail to keep people in jail. The result was a sharp increase in the jail population. Even people facing charges for minor, nonviolent crimes were held for weeks or months because they couldn't afford bail. Lawsuits and legislation. But that approach is now under fire. Class action lawsuits have been filed in Dallas, Chicago, and other cities alleging that bail victimizes the poor. In August, California became the first state to eliminate bail entirely. The law will take effect in 2019. Maryland and New Mexico are also recently changed judicial rules to favor releasing people arrested for minor offenses without bail. Last year, New Jersey eliminated bail for minor crimes like petty theft, simple assault, and trespassing. And for more serious offenses, judges now have more leeway to release defendants not considered flight risks. The new approach has resulted in a 20% reduction in the state's jail population. Bail reform is about justice for everyone, regardless of the income level, says Stephen Sweeney, the New Jersey State Senate president. We've reduced the number of people in jail without an increase in crime, and it's working exactly like we hoped. But not everyone is in favor of the changes. In fact, many in law enforcement say that eliminating bail leads to a revolving door of arrest and release and serious risks to public safety. A cop can't protect the public when the guy he arrests is released before the police report is filled out, says James Stewart Jr. of the Fraternal Order of Police. That only creates a bad guy who isn't worried about the police. Bail is meant to ensure defendants don't flee from charges. He points to the case of Kareem Dawson, who was arrested on domestic violence charges and released without bail twice last year in New Jersey. February, Dawson murdered his girlfriend and then killed himself after a police chase. Because of bail reform, he was out on the street, says Stewart. If a judge had set bail, he wouldn't have been able to pay and would have been in jail instead of out murdering this woman. But reform advocates argue that those cases are uncommon. They say that most people released without bail aren't arrested again and come to court to see their cases through. The public safety argument is ridiculous, says Karkalakis, a civil rights attorney. The most people can't afford bail aren't violent criminals. They're simply poor. After Miranda O'Donnell's arrest and the expired license, she filed a lawsuit against Harris County, Texas, where Houston is located. In April 2017, a federal judge decided the county's bail system was unconstitutional on the grounds that it treated poor and wealthy defendants differently, in violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. In February, a federal appeals court upheld the ruling, and experts predict the decision will encourage more challenges of the nation's bail systems. There's momentum throughout the country heading in the direction of major change, says Golden, the Syracuse University law professor. This wave of bail reform is going to continue, whether this is through new legislation or new lawsuits. So here's some bail basics for you guys. The bail process can be confusing, but here's how it typically works. Setting bail. When a person is arrested and charged with a crime, a judge considers whether the suspect is in danger to their community or risk to flee. If the answer is both is no, the judge sets the amount of bail a suspect must pay to get out of jail, paying the court. If the suspect can afford to post bail, if he or she pays the court, the money is returned when the case is over, as long as the suspect has cooperated. Bail bondsman. A suspect unable to pay full bail can hire a bail bondsman to post the money with the court. Suspect agrees to pay the bondsman a fee, usually 10% of the bail amount, and promises to appear in court whenever required, and then skipping bail. If the suspect makes all court appearances, the money is returned and the bondsman keeps the 10% fee. But if the suspect doesn't appear or skips bail, the bondsman loses the full bail amount. In those cases, a bondsman will often try to track down the suspect and bring him or her to court in order to avoid losing the money. So as you guys can see, this is a really controversial system, but when you think about it in the main, there's a reason behind all these amendments. And so we have to decide as the future generation whether or not this is worth being kept or eliminated altogether. All right, please proceed to the next part of the presentation to learn more about the death penalty as it pertains to your rights and the Constitution.